but we'll just get into it here and kind of just open up about the topic in general because we're seeing it happen. It's affecting top down everybody from, basically 12 years old and up. I mean, if you have social media, you're seeing all this stuff happening as a boy and you're getting pushed through the classroom, top down all the way to college. So I'll just start reading here and we'll get into it. It says, have you noticed what's happening to teenage boys these days? How they're drifting rightward politically while their schools push leftward? It's not a coincidence. And it's not because they're naturally conservative or whatever bullshit explanation the media feeds you. They're not moving right. They're moving away from people who've been telling them that they're garbage since kindergarten. Let's get real about what young men are facing today. The modern education system has become a psychological torture chamber for boys. From the moment they enter school, they're told their natural instincts are toxic, their energy is disruptive, their competitiveness is problematic, and their sexuality is predatory. Day after day, year after year, the message hammers home, you suck, all your instincts are bad, girls are amazing, look at you, you're pathetic. Be less masculine, but somehow more attractive. And we wonder why they're checking out, why they're finding refuge in online communities that at least don't treat them like defective girls. And this isn't about politics, it's just about survival. It's not a left versus right issue that the mainstream media is making it out to be, especially with that Netflix show that's called Adolescence that's been gaining a lot of traction and now is being used in classrooms in certain countries. No matter how much the media wants to frame it that way. This is about a generation of boys systemically demoralized by an education system that doesn't understand or value them. The schools aren't pushing boys to the right, they're pushing boys away. And the right just happens to be standing there with open arms saying, we don't think you're inherently evil. When you're drowning and someone throws you a rope, you don't ask about their political affiliation. You grab the damn rope. And this pressure cooker is killing our sons. And the statistics are fucking terrifying if you have the balls to actually look at them. Male suicide rates are skyrocketing. Boys are falling behind in every academic metric. ADHD diagnosis and medication are through the roof. College enrollment gaps widen every single year. But instead of addressing these issues, we double down on the same approach that's causing the damage. More medication, more sitting still, more shaming of masculine traits, more impossible expectations. It's like watching someone slowly drown your son while telling you it's for his own good. And the mixed messages are driving them insane. The real mindfuck that boys deal with today are these. They'll say things like, be vulnerable and show your feelings, but no anger or competitiveness or anything masculine. Girls can do anything boys can do, but boys are inherently problematic. Be confident and take initiative, but never in a way that could make anyone uncomfortable. And your natural energy is a disorder that needs medication. Or traditional masculinity is toxic, but also man up and protect everyone when something goes wrong. Try navigating that contradictory maze when your brain is flooded with hormones and you're still developing your identity. It's psychological gaslighting on an industrial scale. And this is a full-scale assault on masculine values. Let's just call it what it is. It's a systemic dismantling of everything that makes men men. The left has declared war on the very traits that built civilization: strength, courage, stoicism, protection, provision, competition, achievement. These aren't toxic traits. They're the backbone of a functional society. And they're the qualities that push innovation, defend freedom, and build infrastructure. But the current education system treats these traits like a disease to be cured rather than a force to be channeled. And make no mistake, it's not by accident. It's a deliberate attempt to restructure society by breaking down the natural development of men. When boys can't be boys, they don't grow into men who stand up for themselves, their families, or their values. And a generation of medicated, demoralized, and confused males is easier to control than men with a strong sense of identity and purpose. The great replacement theory of masculinity is what I'm calling this. We're witnessing the first generation in history where masculine traits are being systemically phased out through social engineering. Boys are being taught to reject their own nature, to be ashamed of their impulses, and to suppress all their drives. Meanwhile, these same traits are celebrated when exhibited by girls and women. For example, like female ambition, competition, and strength are rightfully applauded in a woman, but male versions of the same qualities are pathologized. The message is clear. Traditional masculinity is being replaced with a new model that serves a specific ideological agenda, and we know exactly what that is. And I have a section here that I titled Taking Back Our Sons' Futures with a few bullet points of what we need. And what we need to do as men who give a damn about the next generation is to, one, call out the indoctrination directly. Stop being polite about what's happening in schools. Challenge the curricula that demonize masculinity and demand balanced perspectives. 2, create alternative spaces for development. Boys need environments where their nature is valued, not suppressed. Build them, support them, and most of all, this is one I hate the most, actually fund them. There's almost no funding in anything boy related. 3, become the role models they're missing. The system has removed positive male role models from many boys' lives. Be that example, not of toxic behavior, but of strong, principled manhood. 4, teach them to recognize the programming. Inoculate your sons against the messaging by helping them identify it. Don't let them internalize the belief that their masculine traits are problematic. And lastly, stand firm against medication as control. Question every ADHD diagnosis. Demand alternatives to pharmaceutical solutions for normal male energy and development. This isn't about politics. It's about preservation of your sons, of masculinity itself, of values that build everything worth defending in our society. The left won't stop their assault on traditional manhood. The education system will continue pushing their agenda, and the media will keep demonizing masculine traits as toxic and outdated. But they can only succeed if we let them. If we stay silent while a generation of boys is taught to hate their own nature, if we stand by while the foundation of strong societies, strong men, is systemically dismantled. Our sons are counting on us to fight back, not just with words, but with action, to create spaces where they can develop naturally without shame, to provide examples of masculinity that isn't apologetic. Because if we don't, we're not just losing our sons to leftist ideology, we're losing the future itself. In the other episode I did, the fully fledged one, I mentioned how a kid, a boy specifically, can grow up and finish all the way K through college without so much as seeing a male teacher / professor. That's what's insane about the system we have today. It's highly likely that at least through K-12, for sure, you can go through an entire up to 12th grade education without a single male teacher in any of your classes. That blows my fucking mind. Now you compound this issue in a broken home, for example, a single mother home, where you have no father figure present at all. Then you've never had a father figure present in school. So you don't have the coach that was mentoring you through team sports, that was like building up your confidence. That's gone, right? You don't have the father at home. Hopefully he was a good one. That's gone. You don't where your uncle's at. Probably those are gone. People are basically, your mother could most likely be part of a single mother, she could have been raised without any siblings. So you don't even have like an uncle, most likely, in this latest generation. It's just her by herself because she's the product of an only child home also. So it's like, at least before there was some, like a form of a rail against the isolation of young boys from having zero masculine presence in their lives. Like, at least grandpa was there. At least uncle was there. Multiple uncles were there. At least some cousins were. Now it's nothing. Now you could legitimately be raised in a super hyper feminine household on top of a hyper feminized society. And the greatest example you have as a man will probably come from anime or fucking TV or whatever it is that media you consume. And you're like, I'd like to be just like Thor. You watch a Marvel movie and like, that's what a man is. But that's not even a healthy, it's a fucking superhero. Like, you have no real masculine examples at home. And that's just one of the many things that I was touching up on. But when I said things like we'll lose our sons or we'll lose the future itself, is because this is only getting worse. And people aren't having the conversation of, look, we tried it your way. Okay. We tried the progressive model. We tried to make the father in the home not as important, and that society should step up and, it takes a village to raise a kid. Well, it turns out the village isn't fucking interested in your kid. Turns out the village is only looking out for themselves. Every person in the village is strung absolutely on their last leg. Money, inflation, housing, groceries, bills, whatever it is. They don't have time for that shit of helping, Miss Karen down the block watch her kid. They're busy going to work real hardly making money to make ends meet. So we don't have the it takes a village mentality. And then when you place this all on the government, obviously you see what a horrendous job the government does with anything public. All the public money we give them, all the support they give single mothers, all for naught. Because statistically, the numbers tell you exactly how well they're doing. We have record high divorces, record low marriages, record high single parent homes, record high homelessness, crime, all that shit coming from single parent homes. It's all on the rise due to fathers missing and punishing fathers staying. Okay, this is the conversation I just covered. I think the video I covered today with Andrew from the Crucible,
What
I
type of?
believe, and he was
Yeah,
on the
from Piers
panel.
Morgan.
Yeah, he's on the panel. Piers Morgan talking to a bunch of feminists again, and the one topic that they're all dancing out around, and Andrew didn't mention this specifically, but he talks about more from the religiosity sense of it, like we are spiritual beings, and we need to follow. He doesn't explicitly say the Bible, but just have a moral framework religiously speaking and all that. But I'm like, all the ails we have in society today stem from fathers no longer being present. Even the religious issue, because
Yeah,
what is the head of the household? What is the one that sets the boundaries? What is the one that says, get everybody ready, Sunday we're going to church? What does the rest of the house believe? Essentially what the father used to believe. Daddy set the rules. Daddy makes the rules. It's dad's house, you know? And now it's not that. It's nothing anymore. It's just a revolving door of strange men that your mother's dating that come and go and fill you full of trauma from like, oh, this guy was really cool. I took on so strong to him. Oh, he's gone. Oh, here comes another one. Oh, he treated him like shit. He's gone. Oh, this one was super mean to me and was abusing me. Oh, thank God he's gone. Dude, by the time you're a fucking man, you've been through this revolving door of being like loved and abandoned, abused and abandoned. And like what kind of man do you think that produces in adulthood? Like what's the starting point for that guy? It's fucking nuts, dude.
I want to jump in on this one too.
Go
Hopefully, you
ahead.
guys can hear me pretty good.
Yeah, it's coming in
So
perfect.
we can hear you fine.
okay, I grew up in a very broken family, divorced. Basically, my dad was more or less non-existent. So I grew up with my mom and then my stepdad, which they're both decent, but my dad was, or stepdad was way more feminine. And I can tell you, just I'm 30 years old, but I don't have the skills that I should have at this age. And I can definitely relate to a lot of it's like I don't know how to handle a lot of things, and that kind of just sucks when you're
Mm.
30 years old and you're trying to just navigate life. So yeah,
Yeah, I was
I
gonna.
agree with what Bo says in this whole thing.
How did it manifest specifically in you? Like, for
You could
example, when
jump
you
in,
say,
but I wanted to.
oh, okay. Yeah, you go for I was going to ask him, hold this question in your head and try to formulate after. He goes, how that affected you specifically when you said you struggle with things yourself that you should have known. So kind of, yeah, think about that one. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was just gonna piggyback off of Michael. Same thing with me. I mean, my father was there, but he might as well not have been.
Mm.
I suspect he wanted that traditional household where the mother did all of the nurturing parental stuff. He's the one that worked. Uh, Unfortunately, she was a psychopath, and he uh things fell apart, and he got custody of me.
Mm.
I was already having a bunch of issues with everything that happened with the very long drawn out uh violent divorce process, and I don't think he knew what he was doing,
Mm.
really. He wasn't a feminine guy. He was how his father fathered. I don't think he really knew what he was doing. And when it came to trying to be a parent to me and teach me things, teach me how to be a guy, he did it in a very not healthy, very, very dysfunctional, sometimes abusive way.
Mm.
That's how his father did it. His father, actually, out of all the kids, I think my father's the one that got it the worst. And I suspect it's because my father used to be a bit more of a sensitive, artistic guy, and that was looked at as weakness.
Mm.
And so he's the one that got it much worse than the rest of the kids. I'm pretty sure he started seeing the same thing in me, and he didn't like that. Granted, from what I've gathered, he wasn't nearly as bad as his father, but that's a pretty low bar.
Mm.
So that's why I made the comment that I did, where it's like, yeah, the shit in the schools are bad, the shit out there in the media is bad. But I feel like another thing we really need to take seriously is, even if the father is present, how are we parenting? How are we teaching? How are we trying to get across a healthy level of masculinity? Because even if you are trying to teach that with the best intentions, but you don't know what you're doing, or the ways you are using it are really fucked up, it's going to do more harm than good. And it's going to leave you even more confused, even more lost. And you're just going to be even more resigned because you're like, I don't know what the fuck to do. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what any of this means. And then you're getting mixed messages from media, from school. You're trying to figure out who you are. You're getting mixed messages, and you're just like, I fuck it. I'm completely resigned. You know, my father used one of his favorite tools to use, even if he would admit it or not, was shame. If there's something he didn't like, or if you were leaning in a way that didn't seem, in his view, what is going to be conducive of a proper man, shame it out of you to try and steer you in a different direction rather than try to find some healthy way to steer the ship. And that just did a hell of a lot more harm than good.
The things that I struggle with in adulthood is just navigating and coming from a feminine upbringing. Like, I started my own business. I got out of the rat race. I got out of that whole situation of slaving away the 9 to 5 or whatever. And I've been doing this for 5 years now. But there came a point now, because of my upbringing, there's next steps of life and there's no answers. There is no mentors. There is nobody to help. My family's very broken, even cousins, aunts, uncles. I don't have anybody to really turn to. And now it brings the question of what is next. And even navigating relationships with females. I don't have any male mentors to even help guide with that too. So everything you have now is based off of a woman. And now what? That's where I kind of struggle with this too, because now you have the schools, and I've watched the schools in my area destroy. Like, I watch these kids come out of here in freaking tails out their ass, and they're just basically looking up to anime characters. Everything's broken. I'd say 80% of the house or the households in my area are single family or broken. And it's like, you want to try to help people, but you don't have answers yourself. Yeah.
I got you.
What are the questions that you have?
The questions that I have just, well, one, I'm still stuck at home, so I'm working on moving out, which now that I have the income and I'm able to obtain that type of wealth, I can do that. Unfortunately, I'd love to move overseas, but I run a metal fabrication business. I'm a welder by trade. So doing that overseas isn't the greatest. So the next step would be moving from that. But just having relationships with people, it's very tough coming from the background of everything feels transactional. And that's how it was growing up in that type of household. Was these people only want to talk to, they want something to do with you because they just want something from you. There is none of this bonding with another person. Like, oh, we have keen interests. We actually like each other. No, it's, I want to talk to you because you have something to offer. So there's that too. Is that, yeah.
I didn't get a question.
Like this. Sorry, go ahead.
I didn't get a question. I mean, you said a lot of things, but I didn't get any substantial question.
I'm apologize ranting. Just navigating life. I got business phone calls now too. I'll circle back to you guys in a second. I gotta take this.
No worries. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I feel like this also translates into all other types of relationships as well, which is why we're also seeing an issue with men not even really having many or any friends. So it's not just relationships with women. It's not just the dating stuff. I feel like this has a ripple effect into all sorts of other types of intimacy as well, even if it's just simple platonic intimacy between friends. We just don't know how the fuck to do any of it anymore, it seems like. Or at least some of the time, that's what it seems like.
Do you feel like awkward bonding or making friends with other guys just in general?
Yeah. Not as much anymore, but definitely even just a handful of years ago. Yeah, for sure. I am aware of some of the reasons why. And again, a lot of it was my fault for the outlook and or mindset that I had. How that mindset was formed may not have necessarily been my fault, but being aware of it and not figuring out how the fuck to deal with it, 100% that's my fault.
Okay. Interesting.
I didn't know how to connect with other guys, even if I really wanted to connect with them. there was a lot of stuff. One of the crutches or one of the excuses I would use is that there was just a big gap between mm, our interests.
Yeah.
A lot of guys were watching sports and they had a bunch of players memorized and the stats and that this happened in this game or whatever. And I didn't give a shit about any of that. So I was already at a huge disadvantage because
Mhm.
I couldn't contribute to those types of conversations. And it seemed like those conversations were pretty damn frequent. So it was like I already was kind of handicapped with trying to keep up on that and try to even try to fake it to try to get into those conversations.
Mm.
Um, Eventually, though, I started figuring out ways to find other interests aside from just that, and eventually it got a little easier to maybe not bond, but at least have conversations about other things. And then I started noticing the issue, a different issue, which was I'm now okay or pretty good with making acquaintances, but not friends.
Mm.
I don't. I still have a hard time trying to carry things across that barrier to the next step. There's actually a handful of people I can think of right now who have mentioned several times about hanging out, going to grab a beer, whatever. And we've had cool conversations. I just haven't initiated anything further because there's some mental block there. Again, my fault. My fault. It should be easy. That's like that feels like it should be one of the easiest things in the world. But for some reason, there's something there that feels
Maybe you don't want to bond with them specifically.
no. This happens all the time, and it's with people that I think are cool, people that maybe they're not as cool as some of the others, but they're at the very least it could be a mutually beneficial connection regarding career or
That's networking. That's not making friends.
any type of endeavors.
No. It's a different problem. I think what it actually is, correct me if I'm wrong, but is there a fear within you that if they get to know you too much, they might not accept you? You think if you open up to these people that they might see you differently in a negative way?
I don't know.
Mm.
I won't discount that, but there's my initial reaction would be I don't think so.
Hmm.
Given all of the challenges that I do have, I still have an okay amount of self-confidence. At least I have self-confidence that waxes and wanes and
Hmm.
it's not like my self-confidence is always just down in the gutter, always, never, there's never any
Hmm.
ups. But I don't think if that is an issue, it isn't all the time. I suspect it's something else. I just I think it might be more of a if I were to try and look at things logically, it probably has something more to do with things being fleeting and impermanent, like all other types of intimacy and connections had been
Uh,
earlier in my
ah,
life.
that makes perfect sense. If you
And so
bond
it's
deep
like,
enough,
why?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I think
Gotcha.
that might be part of it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense also. Yeah. So probably two of the ones that stem the most from people is fear of being seen for who they really are, at least who they think in their head, and fear of losing a connection you build that you then care about that makes you vulnerable again to being hurt.
Hmm.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've dated a girl that was like that. She had divorced parents, and as we were getting closer, she was becoming more and more self-sabotaging and told me literally, because I asked her why the fuck you're being so weird, and she literally told me that, well, her parents got divorced. What chance do we have? If her own parents failed, she's going to fail. So then she started to self-sabotage as she got closer and closer, but had oodles of self-confidence, was very assured in herself, but then the anxiety started bubbling up from getting too close, and like, oh, this means something now. Now I'm afraid to lose this. And so in order to not go any further, I'm going to distance myself. So, yeah. And I could see that same scenario playing out with friends too. So that's why it might be for you more comfortable to keep people at arm's length as like acquaintances that you have that you could call upon if you wanted to do something, but you don't really want to create any emotional bonds with these people in case they abandon you in some way or fashion, the relationship fails or something like that. And then you're feeling that pain maybe from childhood that you felt again, you know? So very interesting. Super interesting. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.